Who would have believed it? A heat wave in Britain and lasting 3 months as well. Now that has a lot of implications for what we're doing in our attempts to become self-sufficient. The ground has been rock hard. The fruit has been coming on at different times to what we're used to, but nevertheless everything goes on. In July we saw the start of the jam making season. We rebuilt our duck run, renovated the pond. The chicks are getting bigger. The goat babies are now goatlings, so goat teenagers. So welcome to Self-Sufficient in Suburbia for July 2018. It is Sunday the 1st of July 2018. Half this year has gone already. Just wondering what on earth has happened to it. Anyway, today we are spending a lot of time on our pond. Actually, what I mean by that is that we are repairing and renovating our duck pond, which hasn't been done for a couple of years, so we're going to have to drain it, strip out the liner, put new liner in, which we bought this morning, and then refill it with water. As you can see, it's a pretty disgusting mess at the moment, just full of mud. So we'll have to roll back the netting over it, which keeps the foxes off in the evening. And there's the adjoining duck run. So it's going to be a rather smelly, mucky job for today. So we've been draining the sludge off into buckets, which we then put into the big bin here on the wheelbarrow, and then took it over to the various compost bins on the site, and we've now filled them. So we're looking to find all sorts of places where we can legitimately put all this sludge. It will make fantastic compost, fertilizer rather, when it's fully rotted down, although much of it is already rotted down. So David is looking his best in sludge covered trousers. We've taken out as much of the sludge as we can. What we're going to do now is pull out the liner, which, as you can see, is this stuff here. And you can see how it's all fallen in. It's torn in various places, such as there. You can see past the camera's shadow. So all of that comes out. You see it's quite badly torn there as well. But this embankment here has actually, if we could get it all up to that level again, then it will actually give us quite a deep pond, which the ducks will love. So the liner has now been removed, and you can see the blanket underneath, which protects the liner from sharp edges. Bit of an invasion by chickens. And behind David here is the old liner, for which sadly we have no use whatsoever now, so that will be going to the tip.
Towards this end, possibly even right. Do you think we can move that? don't think you'll need them.
We're about to end up under the liner.
Right. Now this is quite a long way.
Not sure how long it's going to take to fill, so I suspect this is going to be a few hours. The water's been running into the pond for about 2 hours, and it has started to weigh down the liner. And we're going to leave the water running for about another hour and a half, and we'll come back at about 8 o'clock this evening. Hopefully by then it will be full, and we'll turn the water supply off. Pond is not the only duck thing that we are doing today. Back home we've got a nice little surprise. So as I said, nice surprise back home, so here it is. So our ducklings have started hatching, so another 4 eggs to go, but the ducklings so far. It's about 11:15 in the evening now, and I've just come over to do the lockup. About an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, we stopped putting the water into the pond. It was nearly but not quite full. Sadly not yet seen any of the ducks using it, but we decided to stop running the water in at that point so that we didn't have to run it overnight, and hopefully in the morning the ducks will be having a swim. It is Monday the 2nd of July 2018. I haven't yet seen any ducks on our refurbished pond, but they've certainly been on because there's various quantities of feathers floating around in it. So I'm just looking forward to seeing the ducks on here because they're bound to start diving into the water, which will be great for them. They'll love that. And it's nice, well, I would say nice and deep in the middle. It's sufficiently deep for them to get a good soaking. It must be about 60-70 centimetres in the middle now. Well, more hedge trimmings, beech hedge trimmings from my friend Chris, who seems to have been really savaging his hedge recently, although it was of an enormous size anyway. So I have been offered all the trimmings, and this is half of them. So this will do for the goat's breakfast tomorrow, and then I'll go back and get the rest. So I've put the beech trimmings down next to the gate. As you can see, they are already pinching it through the fence. What we've also got down here, we've been lent these. This is a fire pit on the left, made by our friend Mick, and he also made this stove as well. Now this is our opportunity to try out outdoor cooking, because we're determined to go ahead with this because we've built up a huge supply of fuel. Being self-sufficient isn't just about providing our own food, it is about trying to be as self-sufficient in providing our own fuel as well. So at home we've got the solar panels, we burn logs on our wood-fired stove through the winter, but we also want to do as much cooking as possible using as fuel the sticks left over from feeding the goats, the stuff like that beech as well. And so we've got an enormous mountain of these sticks, fully dried out, so it's perfect fuel. And hopefully we'll be trying out these outdoor cooking utensils sometime soon. Unfortunately, it looks like only 3 of the duck eggs in the incubator are going to hatch, 3 out of 6, so 50% hit rate. We've had better. But we've now got 3 ducklings, and they are here in our incubator unit in the spare room. For incubator unit, I actually mean an old aquarium, but it works really well as a incubator or incubator unit after chicks have hatched, chicks and ducklings. So here are our 3 ducklings, and we'll keep them in here for another day or so, and then we're going to move them into the chick run in the back garden. But at the moment in the chick run we have a hen with 10 chicks, and tomorrow she'll be moved to the allotment with her family, freeing up that chick house, chick run for the 3 ducklings. In the neighbouring box we've got the quail with her babies, and you can see just one popping out there. See, she's got 11 babies, and she's going to stay here for a bit longer. She'll be here for possibly another couple of weeks with the babies, just to give them time to grow, and once they've reached a reasonable size we can take the whole family over to the quail house, where they'll be added to the flock of quail. It's nearly 10 o'clock now in the evening, but activity is still taking place, and in the kitchen here we are getting ready for our next fair, which is on Saturday in Wickham. And we had all the ingredients last week for a jam made of ginger, rhubarb and apple, but we just didn't get around to making it because we were a bit short of time. So we had lots of people asking for it at the fair on Saturday just gone, so that's what we're making now. So here we have 1 pan of apple, rhubarb and ginger jam, and in this pan are the cores and peel from the apples. We'll use them tomorrow. They'll be boiled up with some cherries which I will pick tomorrow, and that will be used to make a cherry jelly, and the leftovers from that will be passed through a sieve to make a cherry and apple jam. Well, just back from the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, and Richard was there for an appointment with his dietitians, and pleased to say, the good news, he has been discharged certainly from the dietary side. There's other issues that still need to be resolved. So, good news there. Anyway, I called in at Wickham on the way back. Yes. My friend Chris had his hedge cut. Picked up what I thought was half of the hedge trimmings yesterday. Came back for the rest today, and yeah, the Land Rover's just about exploding, so we have all this to get down to the allotment for the goats. It is Wednesday the 4th of July 2018. I've come down to Lobley Hill to the Beggarswood Recreation Area, which is that area there, and the reason I've come is because you may already see I have been picking cherries. Now the cherries are late this year because the winter went on a bit longer than we expected, and it was a proper winter this year, not one of these mamby-pamby winters that we've been having in recent years. No, this was a real winter with real cold temperatures and even some snow. So it's knocked everything back a bit. So when in the past we'd normally be picking the cherries in June, if the wood pigeons haven't beaten us to them, that is. This year we are picking them in July. Not as many as we've had in previous years though. The quantity is reduced, but it's not to say that we haven't got a crop. There are a reasonable quantity of good, big, fat, juicy cherries in there, but it's just the quantity is down on previous years. It is Thursday the 5th of July 2018, and as you can see I'm getting the bee kit on because we're going to do a check of the hives for honey. Hopefully we've got some honey that we can take off and sell at the market that we're going to on Saturday. So we have 2 days left to get ready for it. Now here on our main livestock allotment we have 6 hives. 4 of them are swarm hives, the swarms that formed just a few weeks ago. So they won't have any honey on them, and I'm not be checking them today. The 5th hive is actually a very small one, which we didn't expect to survive the winter, but miraculously it did, and it does seem to have been growing, but again, because it's a small hive, we're not going to be taking any honey off that one. We're just going to, at some point soon, we'll monitor it, we'll check it when we check the swarm hives, but that's not a job for today. Now we've got one hive next to me here, which is a good size hive, and it has a super on the top of it, ready to collect the honey. Now, I'm not expecting a great deal of honey in there because the super went on quite late, but we're going to check it anyway, because if there's anything, if the super is full, then we'll take that honey off. Well, the first thing I've noticed is that the frames at this end haven't been touched yet, but up to this one here, they've certainly drawn out the comb, which means that these ones here hopefully will have some honey on. Let's just check that. Oh boy. Oh, beautiful. Good amount of honey on there. That one is full. It hasn't been sealed, hasn't been capped on the other side, so they're obviously still working on that one. So with this hive, I'm going to leave it for a few weeks yet before we take off the honey. So we'll just let them fill that one up. So here on our far side allotment we have 3 hives. One of them is a swarm hive, so again we won't be opening that to check for honey, but we've got 2 strong hives here which we got originally last year that replaced the stock that we lost in previous years. And because they're strong hives, I'm quite hopeful, and I'm hoping I'm not tempting fate by saying this, but I'm hopeful that we'll get a honey crop on these ready to come off. Well, there was nothing in the top box that we put on, but just looking through here, it looks as though there's a lot of capped honey that we'll know for certain in a moment. Nice and relaxed, these bees. And as you can see, lovely honey, nicely capped. So what I'm going to do is just check the other end of this super, and again it's looking pretty much like it's all capped. Certainly all the frames seem to have been used. And again, yep, beautiful honey crop there. So this is to come off today. So all I've got to do now is check the bees out of this super into that spare one that was on top of it. Right, this other hive, I'm not sure whether I should feel disappointed or just feel it's a bit odd, but it was made up from a brood and a half. Now that means it had a sort of brood box at the bottom, and for reasons we're not got into, it also had a super on it. The super is normally kept for collecting the honey, but actually the queen had access to it, so we expect it to be full of brood. And then a box on the super on top of that, where we would have expected the honey to be collected with the queen excluder underneath. It has nothing in it, so the bees aren't using it. And having just looked at the some of the frames in the brood and a half box, it seems to be that they are filling it with honey and there's no brood in there. which is useful because that means that if they continue doing that, then we can crop it later. But at the minute it's nowhere near being ready to be cropped because most of the honey in it is uncapped. In fact, most of it is empty comb. So clearly they're using the brood box in the bottom, and they're making we're operating fully as a proper hive should do. The queen hasn't come up to lay in the super, so if that continues, then yes, we'll get a honey crop from that. It's just I'm a bit disappointed, given that how strong this colony was, that it's actually not produced us a honey crop yet. But we've got a crop from one hive, so we can't have everything in one go. So what I'll do now is just gently put these frames back together. I took one out and they just need to go back together. As you can see, it is a very strong colony, and this one last year caused me an awful lot of trouble when we put it in, because it had to be done in the middle of the night and I got stung about 50 or 60 times. In fact, I almost came down with some kind of shock, which wasn't particularly pleasant. It's the histamine reaction, I think it was, to it, because I just started itching everywhere after I got multiple stings. Since then, it's been a very relaxed colony. I hope they're not famous last words. It's now 11:30 at night. Most of the preparations that we're able to get done for tomorrow's fair are now done, but there are some things that we just didn't manage to do. For example, we've got a load of strawberries that we picked the other day, and they are still sitting in the fridge because we didn't get around, we just didn't get time to turn them into strawberry jam. And we have the honey that I took off the hive, one of our hives the other day, and it's still in the super, so we just won't be selling the honey tomorrow either. Again, we just ran out of time to be able to get it sorted. But we have made some jams today, or some preserves, so actually no jams today. We've actually made one marmalade, which is a lemon marmalade made from the lemon peel that's left over from making the lemon curd that was made a couple of days ago, which will be sold tomorrow. Hurrah! And we also have some cherry jelly, lovely set on that, made from the cherries that I picked down at Lobley Hill the other day. But whenever I make a jelly, I also use the pulp to make a fruit cheese. Well, I'm actually using it to make an apple and cherry jelly, and I'm just going to swing the camera around. Sorry, not apple and cherry jelly, apple and cherry jam. So this is actually the chopped apples, and the pulp has been from the cherry jelly has been pressed through a sieve. And as you can see, that hasn't been finished yet either. It is still waiting to be made into a jam, so therefore we're just not going to have time to do that either. So we didn't, all the great long list of things to do still is on the great long list of things to do. Good news is we've still got lots of things to sell tomorrow, lots of preserves, so whilst we're a bit disappointed that we won't have the honey in particular, there are 2 other fairs coming up soon which we'll be doing, so there's lots of opportunities to sell it. It is Saturday the 7th of July 2018. We're here in Wickham a bit earlier than we would normally be because we've arrived to help set up the Wickham Community Festival here on St Mary's Green. Well, almost there with the marquee. Well, we've been open for about an hour and a half now, and I've been absolutely run off my feet. There's been a constant flow of people to the table here, which is excellent news. Selling lots of jams. I'm just looking at the table now. 2/3 of the lemon curd is sold. Eggs are selling as well. And our little ducklings have been very popular with visitors, as have the goats. The fair is now over, slightly earlier than normal because we're having to compete with something called England in the World Cup this afternoon. The match kicks off at 3 o'clock. It is Sunday the 8th of July 2018. We have just arrived at Chopwell Woods for the Chopwell Wood Fest.
Someone else actually get right. Did you want to come? And then with these you can do that we've just done.
To go down, where we put it on the readers.
Yeah. Come down to the bottom. That's it, and now gently out.
He was
Hopefully I'll get some more of those done when we get the fire lit. Get some more hand dips
It's
done.
Tuesday the 10th of July 2018. I'm in my back garden here in Sunnyside, and just in front of me here is the chick run, which is where we had the hen a few days ago that had the 10 chicks. However, we have now moved that hen and her chicks to the allotment, and we've got something else in that chick run now. As you can see, it is quite messy in here, and that means we have ducklings in here, which should be just around there. We'll keep them here for a few weeks until they're about 3 or 4 times the size they are now, and then they will go over to the allotment. So here's the hen that got the chicks last week, and she's sitting right on the edge of the big hen house, and as you can see, I'm surrounded by babies. Indeed, she's probably got quite a few of them underneath. Oh no, she hasn't. She hasn't got any underneath her, but she does have 10. All survived the move, all survived the first 3 days on the allotment. This barn downer here was the second hen to get chicks, and as you can see, that's some of them now. And this one down here is actually a chick from the first hen that went broody. So you can see the difference in the size. But that is a cream leg bar, and we know that's definitely a hen because they're auto-sexed when they are hatched. And I'm just getting a visit from Snow. Hello, young man. So these are the older chicks, or some of the older chicks, and they're quite independent now of their mother. Not wholly independent, but largely independent. They wander around quite a bit by themselves. And in the evening they certainly like to tuck up under her wings, so they are still dependent in that sense. You see back behind me is our main gate to our near side allotment, our livestock allotment, and we've been doing quite a bit of work here today to sort of try and tidy up this part of the allotment. And the reason, or one of the reasons why we're doing that, is that the goats have a tendency, or at least 2 or 3 of them have a tendency to get out of the gate as soon as I open it. So we don't particularly want them doing that, and to stop them doing that, we have planned for some time to put a double gate system here. So as you come in through the gate here, there'll be a fence here on either side and a gate in front of me. So that's the plan, to build that, and it will take a few days to knock that together, but we needed to get this entire site cleared. It was looking rather untidy anyway, so we spent some time today getting that sorted. We were going to have the incinerator on this afternoon because there's lots of bits of wood which can't be used in the outdoor stove or on the home wood-fired stove. So we were going to incinerate them today, but then we spotted that somebody nearby was putting their washing up, so we didn't want to make enemies. So we decided not to have the incinerator on today, and that person's washing is still fresh and dried naturally in the breeze. Bits of wood were from an old gate that was rotting away next to the new gate, and that was what was going to be incinerated today, as was this lot. As you can see, there's nothing which we can do with this. Possibly, about the only thing I could think of was to use it as brushwood in an outdoor oven, but we don't have an outdoor oven at the moment, so sadly the only way to get rid of this lot is to incinerate it. We could shred it, but I don't have a strong enough shredder to deal with all of this. One of the big outstanding jobs to do at the moment is get the logs and branches chopped up using the chainsaw. And sadly that job has been waiting to be done for some time now, and it keeps getting delayed because we have lots of time pressure on us. So at some point soon we're going to get this lot chopped up and it will go into our wood store, but this is just one of a number of piles of logs that we have. It will certainly get us through the winter, but in the meantime we've actually got to get them chopped, so job soon to do. And I'm being visited again by Snow. There you go. It's looking as though we are going to have one of our best strawberry crops. We've got a lot of them growing here on the allotment, and added to that we're going to have quite a good raspberry crop as well. So tonight we are picking strawberries and raspberries. We picked a whole load of strawberries last week, and we're about to make them into strawberry and apple jam. Lovely. It's coming up to about 11 o'clock in the evening now, and it's a bit too late to be making jam, so the strawberries will be held over till tomorrow. But we have done some jam making today. I have made, I think it was 11 jars of this. This is cherry and apple jam, and it was made from the pulp left over from making the cherry jelly that I made a few days ago. And that'll be for our next market, which is at St Mary's Church in Wickham on Sunday, when I shall be taking yet more goats. In fact, that's Reverend Barry Abbott, the vicar there, invited us down because he wanted us to bring the goats. Now, right, mentioned the strawberries before, so not all be used in making jam, and just add some cream to them. And it's at moments like this that I really miss Pinky's milk. Pinky, our milking goat, who unfortunately died earlier this year, the day after she gave birth to her kid, Perky. So, I've got a spoon somewhere. There we are. So tomorrow, there's still loads more strawberries to pick, so we'll get them in, and we'll be making strawberry jam. Pinkish cream is always really thick and lovely. Oh, would have been fantastic to have that on our own strawberries. It is Thursday, the 12th of July 2018. As you can see, I'm here in the kitchen, and actually I've spent quite a bit of time in the house today, far more than I really wanted to. The reason being, we had been contacted by the bee inspectors who wanted to come out and visit us and just inspect our hives. It's quite a common thing to happen. And they had arranged to come at 10 o'clock. And by 1 o'clock, I was still waiting for them to turn up. We have had no messages or anything like that from them either. So I just couldn't wait around. I had things to do, so I then headed over to the allotment and did lots of jobs. No idea where these bee inspectors are, and I really am rather annoyed that they pissed us around, pardon my French, for the whole of the morning. So, anyway, here in the kitchen tonight I'm going to be making some strawberry jam. We have loads and loads of strawberries, so here are some that I picked a few days ago. We've got loads more to use up, so we're going to make strawberry jam, but it's strawberry and apple jam because we'll use the apples for the pectin. And we do actually have a cat wandering around meowing, I think wanting to be fed as well. So today's handiwork has given us 11 jars of strawberry and apple jam and a little bowl of it. It's still hot and it's setting rather well, so that's for my toast tomorrow morning. Saturday the 14th of July 2018, and the heat wave is continuing, and also continuing is the growth of our quail chicks, which are now rather large. So as you can see, the quail chicks are growing. They are now, well, they've effectively outgrown the mother there. That's the mother. The chicks are pretty well free of her now, and I think she has come to the end of her period as mother, and she's actually started laying eggs again, which is always a sign that they are past caring for this brood. So what we're going to do is put all these quail chicks and the mother into the cat box, and we're going to take them over to the quail house and integrate them all with the flock. I'm not sure how long it's going to take for them to come out, so we may just leave them for a while. This is what they're joining. In the case of the mother hen, rejoining. It's not taken long for the chicks to leave the cat box and mix in with the flock. So they've all left. So as we can see, nothing in there, and 10 chicks moving around with the adults. So successful integration. Didn't take long. It was only about half an hour ago when I put the cat box into the quail house. It will be a few weeks yet before we know which are the males and which are the females, and we already have, in my view, too many males in this quail house anyway, so at some point soon we will be doing a bit of a clear out, if that's the right term. Some of the older males will be taken out of this colony, and sadly for them, we know somebody who keeps birds of prey who is looking for feed for them, so those older quail males will end up as bird of prey food. It is Sunday the 15th of July 2018. I'm having a nice relaxing day, lying down and doing nothing. Actually no, I'm not. I'm lying down and doing nothing at this moment, but I'm actually here in St Mary's Church, or in their graveyard outside the front of the church, because we were invited by the Reverend Barry Abbott, the vicar here, to bring a couple of our goats to their garden show that they've got here this weekend. So I happily volunteered to bring down Perky and Cole. So here they are. They've already been met by lots of people who've given them lots of carrots, and they'll probably end up overdosing on them yet again. And they've also been recognised from the fair last week as well. But the flower show will be taking place this afternoon, and closes at 3 o'clock, and at that point we'll be heading home. After the hectic activity of the past 7 months, it is actually quite pleasant to just enjoy this heat wave that we are experiencing at the moment. But it's still going to be busy for us, and for these two as well, because tomorrow they're off to Hilltop School in Gateshead, and at some point in August they'll be off to another local fair as well, because I'm expecting to take them to the Chopwell Fair. It's 8:30 in the evening, and we are making a slightly unexpected call up to High Spen, because we've just been notified that there's a bee swarm there, so we are hoping to collect it. We've arrived at the hop garden, and we have now found the swarm. It's not particularly big, but it may take some shaking to get it into the swarm box, because that's quite a substantial branch. Okay, so here is the swarm box. As you can see down at the front, there are bees on the gauze, sort of sticking their tails up and waggling, which would suggest that the queen is inside. And at the moment I'm not seeing any movement in or out of the hole on the side there. But there are a few up in the tree here, but not too many. So I think, I may just be speaking optimistically, but I think we might have caught the queen, but we'll need to let it settle down for a while. We've taped down the lid of the box, and we've moved the box so that it is not so obvious from the path nearby. As you can see, there's still a number of bees on the outside, so we're not going to take this home tonight. We're going to leave it to settle down, let the stray bees go in, and in the early hours of the morning we will come back and collect this. In the meantime, we've actually got to go back and sort out a hive. But as you can see, down here is the entrance. We're heading home now to sort out the hive bits and a location for it, and the reason why I wanted the swarm box left is because there's still quite a few bees buzzing around. But assuming we've caught the queen, all the bees will then go into the swarm box over the next couple of hours or so. But we don't want to leave it too late in the morning to collect the swarm box, because once the sun is up, it's only a matter of the temperature rising enough before the bees start to go foraging, so we don't want them to suddenly find that their home has disappeared when they get back from foraging. So that means we're going to be getting up there at about, I'll get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and collect the box at about 5:30. What I should say is I thank you to David and Sarah, because it was just outside the entrance to the hop garden that they run where the swarm was, and they were the people who notified me of it. So thanks David and Sarah. We have now set up a new hive ready to move the colony in tomorrow morning. It's here on our far side plot, but not next to where the other 3 hives on this allotment are, because those 3 hives are next to the path that brings us through the allotment, and having 3 hives next to the path means we've been chancing our luck recently, although I've got to say none of us have been stung at all by walking past the hives, even though they're all busy. So we've brought the hive up, the new hive, up to the top corner of this allotment, and it is ready, as I said earlier, to have the new colony moved in tomorrow morning. So here is the hive, and it's in front of the boundary hedge, which is very high, so it will be trimmed, but that means the bees will fly up and pan out over the area, and the hive itself is in front of our gooseberry bushes patch, and as you can see, this is the rest of the allotment here. So mainly soft fruit on here, but because the hive is in front of all of this, then the bees will tend to miss this area out, because they will forage to the south of them. So tomorrow morning all we've got to do is go back to High Spen, hopefully without the sound of noisy motorcyclists, at 5 o'clock in the morning, and we'll pick up that swarm box. Hopefully all the bees will be in there, because I think we've caught the queen. So the bees, any remaining bees, should follow her into the swarm box. So it's just a case of sealing up the box first thing tomorrow morning and bringing it over here and placing them in the hive. So it's now 10:10 and that's our day just about done. I've done the lock-up of the animals. I did it whilst we were sorting out the hive parts. So I'm heading home, and hopefully we're going to be able to have some dinner. It is Monday the 16th of July 2018. It is about 5:15 in the morning, and the reason we are up at this uncivilised time of the day is to pick up the swarm box that we had up at High Spen's hop garden last night, hopefully with a swarm of honeybees in it. So we are heading to High Spen now to collect it. I don't know whose idea it was to do this at 5, well, it was my idea to do this at 5 o'clock in the morning. We're now at High Spen, just outside the hop garden, or the hop garden's entrance, and I don't know yet whether the swarm has formed up again. Right. Okay, I'm getting buzzed by a few bees. There's a very small number of them on the tree, but I think we probably will need the bee suits to check this out. So at the unearthly hour of 5:30 this morning, we collected the swarm and brought it back here to our far side allotment and added it to the hive that we set up last night. So I've just added a super to it with a bucket of feed, so that's under this section here, and the bees are all in there, although there's not very much activity at the moment because today is the day it decided to rain, and rain heavily. So that brings our total number of hives to 10. It is Tuesday the 24th of July 2018. Now, we rent our two big allotments over at the Winnies from the Winnies Community Garden. And there's a couple of helpers there who are having birthdays at the moment, so we're going to have a big barbecue to celebrate them getting another year older. And we have agreed to take the burgers for this barbecue, so we're going to be using some of our pigeon meat, and we've been going through our freezers recently, desperately trying to use up what's in them, or 4 of our freezers, and we need to create space because we've seemingly got all of last year's crops still in there to use up, and we've got this year's crops in the process of being picked, so we urgently need some space in our freezer. So I found these burgers in there. These are pork burgers that we made about 3 years ago. So they can be used up, and we're actually going to mix them with the pigeon meat, and we're going to add in some breadcrumbs and some apple and onion, and we're going to go through our old jars of preserves as well and look for some old jellies that can go in, just to add that sort of slightly sweet edge to it. So in the next shot, hopefully, we'll have some nicely prepared burgers ready for our lunch today. It's the mix now made up, enough there to feed an army, and I made a couple of little mini ones just so we can test them out. There goes. Fine to eat.
Go with your Chopwell, Vic.
I'll give you a hand.
Put the knife in there, so just do
Have it then.
just hold the
Cake, because the other one took fire.
Oh, already?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Happy birthday to you.
It is Wednesday the 25th of July 2018 now. For some time now we have had a duck run, which is basically made from a raised bed with the frame of a polytunnel over it, with a net stretched over it and stretched over the neighbouring pond as well. Now we've renovated the pond, but the duck run itself was quite a mess because the net was shredding. We were forever having to stitch up the gaps in the netting, and it is quite a serious, the foxes could be quite a serious threat, and they could easily get into the duck run if these holes aren't stitched up. So what we're going to do now is actually rebuild the entire duck run around the existing duck run, so it'll be much bigger and more secure. And we've been on a hunt around the allotment for some posts that we can use, which we've now managed to do, and we are now hammering these into the ground. So here is the raised bed with the polytunnel poles over it, and we have a visitor. Thank you, Snow. There you go. And here's the pond. And as you can see, the netting lots of bits of string to it which have been used for tying up the holes. So that is the risk. They pose a risk because of the foxes. But over here, as you can see, we have already put in some of the posts, so 4 posts already in, so that's one side. And around here, you can see some of the posts on the ground, and the corner posts are in as well. It's now early evening and we have done as much as we are prepared to do today. So we have all the posts now in place. So tomorrow we will start adding the wire netting. Thursday the 26th of July 2018 saw the addition of the wire netting to the duck run. As you can see, it is now covering all the posts and most of the work is now done, but there are little bits left to do. We've put a gate on, and that was made from an old cage that we had that we dismantled, and inside, as you can see, the pond is included in the duck run, and this is what we'll be getting rid of once this new run has been finished. But above we will be putting netting over the top of this run, basically to stop any foxes from climbing or jumping up as well. We've lost too many ducks over the years now, so we are hyper cautious on them, protecting them. And also, once the duck run is ready, we'll bring the 3 ducklings over from the back garden. So still a bit of work left to do to complete the duck run, but we are nearly there. It's Sunday the 29th of July 2018. As you can see, I'm next to our lovely new duck run, which isn't quite finished because we need to put netting over the top. Now, we're not going to be doing that today because we ain't got the netting yet, but we'll be ordering that soon. And sadly, the netting that we've got over our the smaller duck run is too shredded to be able to use, so unfortunately that will have to go to the tip. But the netting that we have here needs to be sort of pegged down around the edges. That's to make sure that the foxes can't get under the wire netting, and in our usual style of looking to use something that we've already got rather than going out and buying it, we're going to make the pegs out of these coat hangers, of which we have a huge number. So this is our next job. So David is chopping up these coat hangers, making them into peg shapes, so we should be able to get, was it 2 or was it 3 from these, David? Well, after a little bit of experimentation, we've worked out that we can get 4 of these pegs out of the of each hanger. So, roll of drums for David, and start chopping away. We've now pegged the full length of the perimeter fence, and we've also put bricks around it as well to give it an extra degree of security against the foxes. So even though we're not putting the netting over the top yet, we will let the ducks use this without having to enclose them in the old run. And we will bring over the ducklings as well. Are our 3 ducklings which we hatched a few weeks ago and I've just collected from home. They are quite a size now, so definitely outgrown the little chick run that we've got them in at home. So they're now back over here on the allotment, ready to go into the new duck run. Goats and chickens seem to be interested in them at the minute. So I've put them down next to the pond in the duck run. I don't know why this lot are so interested, but I suspect it's because they realise that there's food in the this cat box. So we'll just let them come out at their own pace. Looks like the first one has emerged quicker than I expected. That's them all out now. And straight into the pond. Hey. It's Monday the 30th of July 2018. I'm really pleased to be able to report that our ducklings have settled in very well on the allotment. Now they are still here in the duck run, but a couple of minutes ago they were actually wandering around the allotment, and would you believe it, my camera wasn't working at that point. There was a bit of a fault on it, so I couldn't actually record them wandering around, but they were having a bit of a wander around. Last night the drake, the Ellesby drake from the from the smaller group of ducks that we've got on here, we've got 2 groups, one of 8 and one of 4. Well, the drake from the smaller group had quite a go at them, but I sort of separated him off and moved him away, and then he's just given up on it now. And I was expecting a bit of trouble from the drakes in the bigger group, which is the group that actually roosts here in the duck run, and there was no trouble at all other than a bit of pecking from one duck. But the 2 drakes in that group were quite happy with them being around, so I'm hoping that these 3 ducklings will integrate with the bigger group and definitely end up living here in the duck run. So in the big world of being on an allotment rather than in a little run in our back garden, they're learning to survive with all the other strange things happening around them, such as huge animals with 4 legs and horns taking an interest in them, and of course the chickens as well. So as I say, they seem to have settled in rather well. It's starting to spit down with rain now, and we've had rain over the past 3 days, not as much as I was expecting, and it's the sort of first decent quantity of rain, even though it wasn't as much as I was expecting, that we've had in the heat wave that's been going on for the last 2 months. In fact, I can only think of one other time in the past 2 months that it's rained, and it came down quite heavily, and I did get caught in it, but it was an incredibly short, sharp shower. Certainly the garden could do with a bit of rain. I'm just feeling that if it's going to rain, you might as well make it come down heavy, and let's have a real decent quantity of it. But at the minute, we're just not getting it, so we're having to sort of these occasional bursts and showers, and that's about it. So it'll be interesting to see how this affects the crops in the over the next few months. I was hoping to make hay sometime in the past few weeks, and I just kept delaying it because I had other things to do, and of course had to abandon plans to make hay at the start of last week because of the weather forecast was for rain later in the week. But there now is talk about the rain stopping over the next day or so and then returning to the heat wave later this week. But having looked at the grass and the plants growing on the meadow, quality of the hay probably wouldn't be particularly good anyway, but the problem is there's going to be a big shortage of it, so the price of hay this winter will be quite high and the quality of it will be questionable, and therefore we're still going to have to make as much hay as possible if we want to avoid having to buy in super expensive hay. So we will be making hay when the sun shines. Christine from the community garden gave us a rather nice cucumber there. Oh, and here comes the rain. But somebody has left us a whole stack of marrows outside the gate. No idea who's left them for us, but will definitely get used up. And I'm going to need the wheelbarrow to get them home. I'm home now, but a few minutes ago when I was out on the garden, I was saying if it's going to rain, then it might as well be heavy, but it didn't really look like we were going to get any heavy rain. Well, look at this. It's tipping it down, so maybe I should do rain dances more often. It is Tuesday the 31st of July 2018. I've come back to Beggars Wood at Lobley Hill, which is just down the road from where we live, because this is the area where we've got, or have for years, picked cherries on the trees that the council kindly planted on the recreation area here, and normally the crop is gone by the end of June, and normally we have to fight the wood pigeons to be able to get the cherries as well. But this year is different because the winter ended late and the summer was effectively early and very dry, so it hasn't actually affected the quantity of the crop as I expected, but it is quite abundant. However, it's also extraordinarily late. It's the last day of July and we are picking bucket loads of cherries, and I've never done that before. It's always fighting to get them before the end of June. So as you can see, this is what we've picked in the past hour, and we have plans to make jam, jelly, and I maybe even have a go at making some beer making, but don't quote me on that. So that's it for July 2018 in Self-Sufficient in Suburbia. Join us in a month's time when we'll find out whether this heatwave has continued.